Let me tell you about how potatoes helped to create the modern world, or more specifically, those of us who live in it. Early this spring, as always, I planted a single short little row of potato plants, mostly because the kids think that potatoes are fun to dig up. It's like a treasure hunt.
I'll get it. Got it.
I did absolutely nothing to tend this row. I just planted it and I forgot about it. And a few months later, it yielded more than 6 pounds of potatoes, about 3 kilos, 3,000 calories. So I've got like a pretty big backyard. It's about half an acre. If I cut down all the trees to let in the light and then to free up the ground, and if I planted the ground back here entirely with potatoes, I could create about 9 million calories worth of potatoes a year. That's like 3 or 4 times the annual average calorie needs of a family of 4. Of course, people need more than just food energy to live. We need all kinds of micronutrients. But potatoes are surprisingly rich in those. Potatoes lack fat and fat-soluble vitamins, but they do have a little bit of protein, and if you ate a lot of potatoes, you'd get all of your essential amino acids, you'd get a lot of your B vitamins, and iron, and magnesium, and potassium, and tons of vitamin C, so you wouldn't get scurvy like you would if you ate only grains. That doesn't mean that you can live on only potatoes, but you can live on mostly potatoes. If we had a cow and somewhere to graze it, we'd have some dairy, and potatoes plus dairy is almost everything that you could need. Throw in some like leafy greens, maybe a little bit of meat, and yeah, like that's not the best diet in the world, but it'll keep everybody alive. Potatoes produce far more food per acre than any other staple crop. More than rice, more than maize. Even when you account for the higher water content of potatoes. Potatoes are number 1. Plus, the potato plants are hardy, and the spuds themselves grow underground, which makes them far less susceptible to disease and bugs and bad weather. Wheat and barley and rice are just hanging out in the open air where lots of bad things can get them. Plus, when it's time to harvest grains, that's a lot of work. You gotta wait for just the right moment when the grains are just perfectly dry, not so dry that they're gonna fall out all over the ground. And then when you've got that perfect moment, you have to get this whole big group of people together so that you can actually all at once go out and reap the harvest. Potatoes, in contrast, you can just leave in the ground for weeks. You dig them up whenever you're ready. Then there's no threshing or winnowing or milling. You just wash them off, throw them into a dark, dry root cellar where they will not sprout into new potato plants. And then when you're ready to eat, you just boil them or bury them in hot coals. Now, potato crops can fail, just like any other crop. Ask the Irish about that. Potatoes get diseases too. But scholars around the world have identified a clear correlation between the advent of potato farming and a stunning rise in human population and urbanization that occurred in the 18th and 19th centuries. Because the potato is particularly good for cool, wet climates, it is particularly responsible for the rise of Europe and North America as dominant global powers, for good and for ill. More potatoes equals more people, which is not necessarily a good thing, as anyone who's tried to see a Taylor Swift concert this summer could tell you. So consider buying tickets with SeatGeek, sponsor of this video. Lauren's been looking for T-Swizzle tickets, I've been looking for Metallica tickets while I still can, and SeatGeek is by far the least frustrating place that we've looked. With more than 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There's more than 70,000 events here every day, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. All those tickets from across the internet are in one place with SeatGeek, and each ticket is rated 1 to 10. Look for the green dots. Green is a good seat, red is bad. And every ticket is backed by SeatGeek's buyer guarantee. It's the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of time with swaps. Now, of course, anywhere you buy them, Tay-Tay tickets are going to be expensive, as are like football tickets, football season coming up in the United States, American football. So save yourself some money. You can get $20 off with my code Ragusia. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code Ragusia. Make sure you click my link in the description to download the app. Thank you, SeatGeek. Anyway, potatoes and how they changed the world. Potatoes are from here, they're from the Americas. So nobody else had them until the Columbian Exchange. And even then, it took a long time for people in Afro-Eurasia to get hip to potatoes. Take Sweden as a case study. Cold, rocky, terrible farmland, but lots of trees and navigable waterways, which means that you can build ships and sail them to more fertile lands to plunder, hence Vikings. Eventually, agricultural knowledge and technology advanced to the point where all of Europe got a lot more productive, but Sweden still kind of lagged behind because of its geography. The potato made it up to Sweden as early as the 1600s, and early Swedish botanists saw its potential, but everyday peasants were slow to adopt it. It wasn't until the 1740s when some terrible grain crop failures prompted the Swedes to reconsider the spud. And around this same time, the Swedish Empire collapsed, and so they lost all of their grain-producing possessions over in the Baltics, so potatoes. One legacy of the empire, though, was a robust professional government bureaucracy that was very good at keeping records. As a result, we know exactly how tall Swedish military recruits were, going back centuries, and they got several inches taller on average as the potato got more popular in Sweden. Better childhood nutrition means you grow taller. And of course, this is the period when global population started the steep upward swoop that we're still on. Now, with the exception of maybe the Himalayas, the potato probably did not make as big of a difference in East Asia. They had rice in East Asia, and rice is also very productive. Not as productive as the potato, but pretty darn productive. Much of the rise in global population around this time period we're talking about could be attributed to advances in technology and medicine. So a few years ago, the economists Nathan Nunn and Nancy Chien tried to figure out how much population growth could be attributable to the potato specifically. It's a tricky question because there's also these other factors, like hygiene. Plus, there's a chicken and egg problem with the potato, even though the potato does clearly look more like an egg. The causality dilemma goes like this. Did the potato enable populations to rise? Or did like vaccines and sanitation and stuff like that allow populations to rise? And then to feed all of these new people, they had to turn to a new crop that they still didn't like very much, but they knew could be super productive, and that is the potato. Regardless, Nunn and Chien did a bunch of math and came to the conclusion that the potato is responsible for about 1/4 of the incredible population growth across Africa and Eurasia in the 18th and 19th centuries. Also, the potato helps explain the corresponding rise in urbanization, because you need agricultural surplus in order to feed factory workers in cities who don't farm. The potato set us up for the second industrial revolution. Of course, if you rely too much on potatoes and if you only grow one variety, yeah, you're setting yourself up for the possibility of having your whole crop wiped out by some kind of blight, which is exactly what happened in Europe starting in 1845, and that's when people started to emigrate out of Ireland en masse. Europeans took the potato from the Americas, and eventually the potato took them right back here. The potato is now so important to the US that the government tightly regulates which potatoes farmers can use as seed potatoes. They have to be certified disease-free, says the law. You can use your own potatoes as seeds, but only for one generation in the case of Idaho here. The government doesn't much care what you grow in your own backyard, so hey, maybe next time you have some grocery store potatoes and you've got an extra one, you could think about burying it in the backyard. You might find out just how easy it is to grow food with potatoes. It's still probably best to start with seed potatoes though, okay?